Greetings, everyone. May you always be safe, peaceful, and emotionally grounded. To all the young people listening today, are you truly okay? Or are you struggling inside? When we are emotionally unstable, it means we are no longer able to maintain a balanced and steady state of mind. Our emotions rise and fall unpredictably. Sometimes it feels as though something else is controlling us and we're no longer ourselves. We become a different person, more irritable, more reactive, more easily angered, more easily hurt, and more easily overwhelmed by sadness. Of course, when we face unexpected hardships or painful life events, these emotional reactions are natural. Anyone would struggle under such circumstances. But when those difficulties have already passed, or at least are not present in this very moment, and yet we continue to feel anxious, panicked, fearful, and constantly on edge, then we may be facing a deeper problem. Perhaps we're carrying emotional wounds. And one of the most common psychological conditions in our time is depression. Depression is when our emotional state sinks to a very low place and becomes trapped there. We find ourselves living in negativity for an extended period of time. It is as if we were once a strong and powerful tiger, but now we have become a fragile little cat, sensitive to everything around us. A person experiencing depression often goes through 3 main stages. The first stage is discouragement and loss of interest. Nothing feels enjoyable anymore. We wake up in the morning with no energy, no motivation to do anything. Even the activities we once loved, the projects we were once passionate about, they no longer excite us. We may not even want to interact with other people. Relationships begin to feel meaningless, as though they can no longer bring us comfort or support. We withdraw in our rooms, spending most of our time with our phones, our computers, or perhaps a beloved pet. The second stage is fear. We become afraid of crowds, afraid of meeting new people, and even afraid of opening up to those who are close to us. We worry that they might notice something is wrong, ask questions, or see through the mask we're trying so hard to maintain. We become afraid of challenges because we doubt our own abilities. Feelings of insecurity or inferiority grow stronger. We begin to see ourselves as small and insignificant in a vast world, while everything around us starts to feel threatening and unsafe. The third stage is despair. It feels as though we are lost in a dark forest with no way out, or trapped at the bottom of a deep pit with nothing to hold on to. We feel misunderstood. We believe no one can truly understand our pain. Life itself begins to lose its meaning. Some people find themselves thinking about death repeatedly throughout the day, and some may eventually attempt to end their lives. Many people have lost their lives because of depression. But the truth is, depression is not as frightening as it may seem. It is simply a part of us, a wounded part that needs attention, understanding, and care. What matters is whether we are willing to recognize it. Can we see our own suffering? Can we recognize our emotional instability? Can we name what we are experiencing? Have we begun to come back and care for ourselves? Have we truly done so? Have we devoted our whole heart to healing these wounds? Have we learned effective ways to help ourselves? And what is the result of our efforts so far? If we know that something is wrong within us, but continue to ignore it or refuse to acknowledge it, the condition will gradually grow stronger, and if left unattended, it can eventually destroy us. Not only does it harm us, but it also affects the people around us. Why do we end up this way? The answer may be that our minds are not strong enough, or perhaps, to be more honest, they have become fragile. When life brings challenges that feel too heavy, or changes that arrive too suddenly, we struggle to cope with them. For someone with a stable and resilient mind, those same difficulties may not cause much harm. Even if they experience emotional turmoil, their inner healing process helps them recover and move forward relatively quickly. So, why do our minds become fragile? One reason may be that for a long time, very long time, we have not truly taken care of ourselves. Instead of regularly turning inward and finding refuge within, we become absorbed in the outside world. We chase after work, achievements, relationships, or someone we deeply admire and depend on. Gradually, we become attached to these things. We pour our energy, thoughts, and emotions into them until they become the center of our lives. And when those things change, disappear, or move forward, move away from us, we feel lost. Suddenly, we no longer have anything to hold on to. In those moments, what we truly need is to return to ourselves, to care for our wounded hearts and gently put our inner world back in order. Yet, many of us do the opposite. Instead of turning inward, we rush back into the world, searching for another person, another goal, or another source of comfort to replace what we have lost. A fragile mind have also been shaped by childhood experiences. Some of us were raised in environments where life was relatively easy. We were deeply loved, well protected, and rarely exposed to hardship. As a result, we may not have developed the emotional strength needed to face life's inevitable challenges. There may also be a genetic influence. Sometimes we are born with a certain emotional disposition that has been passed down through generations. From our parents, grandparents, and ancestors, we may inherit beautiful qualities such as kindness, compassion, sensitivity, or extraordinary talent. Yet, emotional resilience does not always grow in proportion to these gifts. In a way, this is simply part of the natural balance of life. That is why when we experience depression or emotional suffering, it is important to look for the roots of the problem within ourselves, rather than placing all the blame on other people or external circumstances. So, can a person who is emotionally wounded or struggling with depression truly heal? The answer is yes, but it is not easy. Even in countries with some of the most advanced medical systems in the world, such as the United States, medication is still commonly recommended as part of treatment. Of course, many healthcare professionals also acknowledge the value of natural and supportive approaches, but these are often viewed as complementary rather than primary treatments. One reason medication is used because it can influence certain processes in the brain that are closely related to mood and emotional well-being. People who struggle with depression often experience changes in these systems, making it much harder for them to feel joy, motivation, or emotional balance. But why does this happen? From a spiritual perspective, it may be because over a long period of time, we have become deeply dependent on something outside ourselves. For someone, it may be alcohol, drugs, or unhealthy habits. For others, it may be relationships, work, achievement, social media, computers, or mobile phones. Gradually, the mind begins to believe that comfort, peace, and happiness can only be found by reaching outward. And when those sources of comfort disappear, change, or no longer satisfy us as once they did, we feel lost and empty. Our inner stability is shaken, and emotional suffering begins to grow. Medication may help some people, but it can also come with side effects. This is one reason why many people continue searching for additional ways to support their healing journey. When we talk about natural approaches, however, we are not talking about a quick or effortless solution. True healing often requires us to actively participate in our own recovery. It asks us to change the way we live. An unhealthy lifestyle, one that lacks structure, discipline, balance, proper rest, or proper nourishment, can gradually weaken our emotional well-being over time. To heal, we may need to rebuild these foundations, and that is not easy. Changing ourselves is difficult for anyone, even when life is going well. For someone who is already exhausted, discouraged, and struggling to find meaning in daily life, making those changes can feel even more overwhelming. That is why many people living with depression need support. They need someone can encourage them, guide them, walk beside them, and help them take the next step when they no longer have the strength to do it alone. Sometimes having a companion on the journey can make all the difference. The first and most important step in healing emotional wounds or recovering from depression is to acknowledge that we are struggling. We must be honest enough to admit that something is wrong, that we are carrying a deep inner imbalance, and that we need help. And while support from others can be valuable, no one can help us more deeply than we can help ourselves. So, if there is some part of you that has strength to begin, then begin today. We need to trust our brains to hold the capacity to heal. Just as the brain can still produce the chemicals that support well-being and emotional balance, our hearts also carry their own inner resources: peace, calmness, ease, gentleness, balance, and love. These qualities have not disappeared. They are still there. We simply need to return to ourselves, commit wholeheartedly to the healing process, and find skillful ways to invite them back into our lives. To do that, we may need to reduce some of our external commitments. Perhaps we cut our workload in half. Perhaps we step away from certain distractions for a while. The goal is to create enough space to return to ourselves and nurture both the mind and the heart. We begin by bringing others back into our lives. We establish a healthy daily rhythm. We wake up early, we exercise, we clean our living space, we cook nourishing meals, we care for plants, we spend time with our pets, we reconnect with the people we feel safe with. Most importantly, we give ourselves permission to rest, to slow down, to breathe, to relax. Practices such as yoga and meditation can also be helpful because they allowed us to reconnect our bodies and our inner world. As we spend time listening to ourselves, we become more aware of the emotional waves moving within us. Keeping a journal can be especially valuable. It helps us observe our patterns, recognize changes over time, and learn how to care for difficulty when they arise unexpectedly, like emotions. We can also explore natural approaches to healing. One practice I would like to introduce is Vipassana meditation, often known as insight meditation. It is a powerful practice because it trains us to observe the mind itself. To observe the mind means learning to see our worries, our fears, our restless thoughts, and even that not so lovely little monster living inside us. The moment we begin observing it, something changes. As awareness grows stronger, the monster loses some of its power. It can no longer dominate us in the way it once did. And gradually, we begin to rediscover ourselves. We begin to recover our wholeness, our strength, and our inner stability. I truly believe that this is possible, and I promise to continue walking alongside you in the future talks, sharing more of what I have learned on the journey of healing emotional wounds and recovering from depression. Thank you all for listening. May you be gentle with your heart, and may you never give up on your healing journey. With love, Ella.